Good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here, taking a look at your tropical update for June 23rd of 2020, brought by the good folks over there at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling. Topics are pretty quiet, so we've got a couple of things to chat about, but generally speaking, tropics are reasonably quiet. We've got Tropical Storm Dolly now, as well as a whole mess of Saharan dust. So usually this time of the year, we're looking pretty close to home. We're into the Gulf of Mexico, the Northwest Caribbean, just off the east coast of Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida. As we get into July, we do kind of stretch that into the Caribbean, but notice right now, and into July, usually it's basically south of, the Carolinas and looking down into the Atlantic. And right now we've got a flare-up of thunderstorm activity into the Gulf of Mexico. But generally speaking, everything's pretty quiet in the areas where typically we look for some kind of tropical development. The interesting thing is, Tropical Storm Dolly formed a little bit earlier today. There it is, right there. Pretty incredible to see something this far off to the north. I mean, look where this thing is lying. This is on a line with basically almost the Jersey Shore and New York City. A wind at 45 miles an hour, gusting to 60. But you can see that there was a flare-up of some decent activity a little bit earlier. But it does seem to be kind of falling apart now with Dolly. But there it is. Everybody, I think, was hoping for something really cool with Dolly Parton and everything. But it's just off in the northwest Atlantic, going to be floating away from shore and not bothering anybody. As we head through the next couple of days, we will have to keep eyeballs on a couple of different things. Mainly that little circle that you see there gliding off and into the middle of the Atlantic. Now, originally, this is going to form way back over here and kind of drift off to the northwest like so. Now, the models at this point kind of diverge when it gets into kind of this area. The European takes it back off to the northeast, and the American kind of takes it and flattens it out and continues it off to the west. The reason that this gets to be kind of interesting is there's going to be some dry air over the Gulf of Mexico that eventually kind of erodes away, and you can see that here on our 700 millibar moisture area. Now, and then there's a bunch of dry air back in behind it. So it gets kind of sandwiched in between, and the question becomes, well, is anything going to happen with it? And unfortunately, right now, we don't necessarily have the answer. Of course, with the tropics, we try not to look at much further than about 3 to 5 days with any semblance of true precision and precision with accuracy, because it's pretty tough to do. But I wanted to take you guys through the upper level air pressure up at 500 millibars to kind of paint a picture about where and why this thing may be going and why it may or may not be an issue for us. So we got big ridges of high pressure out here. You can see the arrows. That's the prevailing flow around these ridges out here. We've got really nothing doing as we head through the next couple of days, Thursday into Friday and Saturday. We got a big ridge of high pressure that kind of parks over parts of Florida, and this does a pretty good job of keeping anything away from us if there was anything out in the tropics. Now, there's not going to be. We just have regular afternoon showers and thunderstorms around here through the rest of the week, and into the weekend we get pretty warm. But as we head into Monday of next week, that ridge shifts off to our west. We get into kind of a northwest flow. Let's see if I can make a little arrow with it. There we go. Northwest flow. And then you end up with kind of a break in here. This is what we were talking about. There's a bunch of Saharan dust over here, a bunch of Saharan dust over here, and a little area kind of right in here that you end up with enough moisture and not a bunch of dry air in the mid-levels. Well, what happens with that? Well, an area of high pressure tries to kind of take over, but it gets kind of nudged by whatever may try and develop out here. Now then, you've got to say, well, where does the prevailing flow take it? And when you've got a big ridge of high pressure out here that looks like this, the prevailing flow would probably take it a little more off to the west than off to the north. Now, the European model has this big ridge of high pressure a little further back this way, which means you're able to kind of curlicue it. Come on, curlicue. You can do it for me. Come on. Come on, arrow. Work for me. No, you're not going to work for me. All right. Well, you can curlicue it back off to the north. There we go. Back off to the northeast. So the question remains as we head through about the 1st of July. We've been talking about this for about the last 5 to 7 days. That as we get into July, there may be something out there worth watching. What? And we don't really know yet. But this may be the thing that is worth watching as we head through the beginning of July and toward the 4th of July. Now, before you ask, hey, do I need to cancel any 4th of July plans? The answer is absolutely not. There's still plenty of time to watch this and a lot can change. However, it is something that down here, at least, we've got definitely on our radar. So that's a look at the tropical update for June 23rd of 2020, brought to you by the good folks there at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling.